Alone. About the author. Sheila Nayampalli Barua graduated from Madras University with an MA in English. She worked as copywriter at J. Walter Thompson for 2 years. She retired in 1991 after 12 years of teaching English at a local college. Let us start with the summary of this lesson. The narrative style of omnipotent speaker. The author explains details of events in a very time centric sense. There is a chronological arrangement of affairs. The itinerary of life is quite clear here. The overtone of the story is loneliness faced by the lead named Anasia. It is about her who lives alone in one of the apartments in Bombay and her observations and what goes on in her mind. The author starts by explaining what she was cooking that morning at 7:30 a.m. At 8 a.m., the children next door leave for school. At 8:30, Mr. Hegde left for office, saying that he will be late in that evening. At 9:30, Nandita, the breadwinner of the family, is about to leave for work. As the heated argument over her sister's lover was heard, each person had a unique sound of opening and closing the lift doors. Anasia, the protagonist, explains her day and how she would stretch work to fit all her leisure tune. She mentions Ramabai, her house help, who would come in at 5 p.m. and do all the work for her. She missed walking down the street every alternate day to the bank and talking to the girl behind the saving counter and exchanging a couple of meters. Here we realize the location as she says how convenient it was to live in Bombay now. She describes how Mr. Bose's asthma got worse by the day, and even though Anasia wanted to suggest medicine, she knew that Mr. Bose was not amiable to her ideas. Then she explains the rains of monsoon. She seemed happy about it but simultaneously sad, because it would take 2 days for her clothes to be dried and her apartment would smell damp and dank. At 3:30 the children next door arrive home. At 4 p.m. the children are found playing. At 5 p.m. Ramabai walks in with her usual chatter. She completes her work and leaves with some money to get some vegetables for the next day. It is 7 p.m. and Nandita comes home. At 7:30 p.m. her another neighbor returns. It is known that they are angry by the sound of the closing door. Suddenly there is a flashback. She remembers her youthful days when she had fallen in love with Shantanu. As her father suffered a kidney problem, things changed. Evening classes, working to bring in the extra money, and so on. And so Shantanu's visits became less frequent and they drifted apart. After her father died, she nursed her mother, and by the time her mother died, she was middle aged, with her hopes and dreams replaced with the weight of injured happiness. She was so lonely that now she found vicarious pleasure in coming of home of others. She would sometimes open her front door to conquer with the lift doors to meet Nandita or Sarala. At 4:30 a.m., as the mosque prayers began, empty her stretched as thoughts in her mind hit her. What would it have been if she were with Shantanu? The might have beens were here, rending especially at night. At 6 in the morning, she could hear the sound of mop and compare herself to dust. It was Monday, so she would go to the post office and post a letter to America. On Tuesday, she took out money to pay corporation tax. At 2 p.m., as Anastasia rushed to greet the supervisor, the doors thrust open with brute force. Two tall men with their faces covered entered. The taller of the two pulled the gold chain off her neck, leaving a long bleeding scratch behind. They took her keys and went to her cupboard. She was furious. She flung at them, screamed, and revolted with all her might. When the neighbors gathered, the two men were still inside with Anasuya's lifeless body. The following day, everyone wanted to help. Each one offered some help or the other. Anasuya's dead body was surrounded by people who didn't even know that she existed. She would have been happy if she were alive, as she was not alone anymore. The story ends with the exact same routine of the place continuing the following day onwards as it did in the beginning. As the author describes the happenings of events and story, it is seen that she compels to all of her readers' senses. Through her writing, she is able to convince the reader to understand each description, like sound of closing doors, smell of fish fry, watching the children run, and so on. Anastasia didn't have anyone except her loneliness. The author says Anastasia has nothing to achieve in her life, nor does she have to prove anything to anyone. The could, would, might have beens are used in order to show regrets of a certain action that could have been performed. There is a mention of Anastasia going to the post office and posting a letter to America, but there is no reason given for this. The conclusion is ironical, as there was no one for her as she lived, but when she was dead, there is the whole wide world ready to be with her. The philosophical underpinning is that human life is contingent. Even though humans die, lives of rest of the people goes on, and that humans must make complete use of their time as we live here.